So like letting go is, it can be literally, I think, mostly letting go of stagnant emotions. For me, it always comes back to that. And as a society all over the world, as a humanity, I mean, there's places where people are more in touch with their feelings. They're more expressive. You can hear it in the language, right? But there is a general sense, I think, in humanity at this time of there's so much traumatization that people have been shocked out of their presence. There's a lack of emotional intelligence. So even though it's the most natural thing is to feel, we've been conditioned, it's been conditioned and traumatized out of us as mass of humanity. And so the way that psychedelics can help with that is
welcome, and today we have the honor to have a remarkable guest with us, Pyasa, who is a compassionate advocate for harm reduction in the psychedelic space, committed to providing safe and supportive environments for people to explore the therapeutic potential of psychedelics. She believes that everyone has the capacity for healing and growth, and considers it a sacred service to support others in the path of healing and self-discovery. Over the last 3 decades, Pyasa discovered firsthand the healing power of psychedelics, which played a pivotal role in overcoming complex PTSD, chronic Lyme disease, and depression. This profound experience inspired her to become a trauma-informed somatic sexologist and a psychedelic facilitator. Today, she guides couples and individuals through online and in-person retreats and teaches consent at 5 5NEO Facilitator Training Center in Mexico. Pyasa's work utilizes embodied learning, sound movement, integration, earth-based wisdom practices, and various trauma healing modalities to help her clients find a sense of safety in their bodies and reclaim their sovereignty from outdated belief systems. Please join me in welcoming Pyasa to the show. Welcome, Pyasa, to the Untold Story Told. How are you today?
Thank you so much, Saliha. It's really an honor to be here. I feel really grateful. Thank you.
I'm grateful too, and thank you for joining us from all the way from Mexico. What time is it there right now, Pyasa?
It is 22 minutes after 9, which is usually about the time that I'm starting to get ready for bed.
Wow. Oh, wow. And is it Thursday there? Thursday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And I'm here in Sydney, and it's Friday, 1:22 p.m. in the afternoon. And my kids will be home soon, so I'm in that kind of a phase. So, Pyasa, this is so interesting, right? I really wanted to start this conversation with this question that I just had this burning desire to ask you, because you've had such a vast experience, and the way you are shaping and growing is the most interesting thing I find, that you keep on finding within you modalities that you want to learn and how they can serve others. Like that works in conjunction, right? So the question I wanted to ask you, Pyasa, is that your work is deeply rooted in the belief that everyone has the capacity for healing and growth, right? And you do the same with yourself. So can you share how this belief has shaped your approach to supporting others on their healing journeys?
That is a really good question. So let's see, what comes first as a response to that is around, I haven't always believed that. For a long time, I really didn't have any hope or trust that things could get better. You know, I experienced a lot of trauma at a very early age and for many years. And it dysregulated my nervous system so much that I really didn't know that felt sense of safety in my own body. So it's very difficult to be embodied when we have all of these blocks from stagnant emotions and false beliefs that we're really holding on to. It's like it's a very physical and chemical experience in our nervous system, in our body, right? So I didn't always believe that, and it's something that has evolved as an understanding through my own experience. And I think a big part of coming back to that self, the myself as a capital S, has to do with, getting back in touch with that part and getting to know and be intimate with that self, with the capital S, which is always undisturbed, right? It's nothing can damage our self. It's really just the false beliefs and the ideas that we've gathered through our conditioning and our experiences that block us from our full embodiment, right? Of having spirit in a body, really, which is who we are.
Mm. Mm. That's so beautifully said. If we know who we are deep within, that's where it starts, right? That's where the journey starts. You start going within, as you mentioned, your experiences, and going deep within them is where you found, I understand through your story that I've read online as well. I've been on your Facebook, on your website, and I understand that a lot of your healing that you give others, it started with you going within you, right? To find the healing within you. So, could you shed a little bit of light on how were those first experiences very pivotal in getting you, that first awakening, or that first, like, oh my God, I need to look beyond what I can see, beyond our thoughts, as you said, the conditioning. When was that
Mm.
first time?
Mm.
Mm.
Wow. So, what I want to say here, I just want to give a little warning. Might feel a little bit heavy or intense for some people. So just take a deep breath if this could be triggering. And so for me, I think that first time was waking up in the hospital after a suicide attempt and remembering this experience that I had where I call them plasma beings. It was kind of like a near-death experience, perhaps. And the only piece that I really remember were these beings that said, are you really sure that you want to go? And the next thing I did is I woke up in the hospital and I realized that I really needed to know myself more. And I started a whole adventure. I just bought a one-way ticket across the country. I grew up in the United States and began a journey of, you know, a lot of synchronicities, meeting a lot of teachers and people who became mentors for me, who were basically always leading me back to myself through all different kinds of ways. Some of that was with medicine work. I met ayahuasca for the first time in the early 90s before I had ever heard of it, or I think many people had ever heard of it. I certainly had never heard of it. And that was probably one of the biggest pieces that helped me to really get in touch with my own healing or my own remembering of who I am, right? And to do that, I had to go through a lot of purging, a lot of releasing of stagnant, stuck energies in my body, right? There was what we do as humans is when we experience something that's overwhelming or difficult to handle in the moment, sometimes we just check out and we can't even feel. It's not safe to feel at that time, right? But after a while, we can get stuck there, and that becomes depression, right? We become depressed. Whatever we repress, we become depressed, or whenever we repress, we become depressed.
Mm.
Yeah. So I had done a lot of that because it wasn't safe. That's a pretty normal response for people to shut down
Yes.
when things are too scary.
Yeah.
Until the time when we can create a sense of safety,
Mm. Mm.
an environment where we can start to
Mm.
let go.
Mm, let go. That is it, right? Once we realize that all of this, not pointing fingers at others or situations, as they call it, the blame, the complaining, and the resentment, not holding on to that and coming to a point of like, is it serving me to keep holding on to stories that are burdening me, that are keeping me down, that are not letting me move myself beyond the limits, and realizing the potential, as you said, our regressed emotions or our suppressed emotions have led us to a place of just not knowing who we truly are. Like in the teachings of Abraham Hicks, they say that when we are born as pure liquid love. And if we are born as pure liquid love, then what happens along the way that shapes us into these beings who are holding on to the pain or the experience of something that has shaken us, broken us, and where does it come down to a day in our lives in when we're growing up where we actually take a stand and say, no, no more. Am I going to let this inner pattern that I've been carrying, the belief system I'm carrying, how long will I hold on to this? So, with in what you're saying is as well, and you're saying this that we need to let it go. And I believe that there's a process of forgiveness in there too. For many people, generally, the word forgiveness comes very naturally because most of us have been growing up in religious systems where forgiveness is a way of you forgive people, you feel better, or you forgive people and you've done like some divine act of getting some kind of good out of it. But what I'm saying is that it can be just as simple as letting it go. So, in your line of work, when it comes to letting it go, how do you think like psychedelics play a role when it comes to people who come to you and they are all, you can just, because you are the person who can see beyond, you're an empath deep within, when you look at them and you can scan them, you can see that, oh, their main issue is letting it go. How do psychedelics help with that? And how does this process
Mm.
work together?
So many beautiful inquiries in what you just said. I'm like, wow, okay, there's so many threads of where we could go. Um, One thing that I felt as a response in all of that is how important it is for us to naturally come to forgiveness. I think that there's a real danger for us, like in the sense of spiritually bypassing forgiveness. That um, if we think, oh, I need to do this before we actually do the work where it can naturally blossom in our heart, because it will when we can let go. And so, like, letting go is yeah, it can be literally, I think, mostly letting go of stagnant emotions. For me, it kind of always comes back to that. And as a society all over the world, as a humanity, um, I mean, there's places where people are more in touch with their feelings, they're more expressive. You can hear it in the language, right? But there is a general sense, I think, in humanity at this time of there's so much traumatization that people have been kind of shocked out of their presence. And so there is a disconnect between there's a lack of emotional intelligence. So even though it's the most natural thing is to feel, we've been conditioned, it's been conditioned and traumatized out of us as mass of humanity. And so the way that psychedelics can help with that is, well, each different psychedelic has a different quality of how it helps in a chemically, because it works physiologically in our systems. And one of the beautiful things is it helps us to they help us to get in touch with our feelings in different ways, like I said, according to different psychedelics and the different medicine that each one has. But what all of them have in common is the ability to create neuroplasticity, more neuroplasticity in our brains. So when we have more neurons firing and neuroplasticity, we can create different habits. So we can prune off old ways of being. Maybe, if we can fully express things, then it's out of the system and we don't have to grow pathways for that again, right? We can now, now I'm going to practice gratitude. And when we use that in the space of time that scientifically we have allotted from each type of psychedelic for the neuroplasticity golden time, and we really practice things like more emotional intelligence. Can I name 3 ways that I'm feeling right now? Beyond, I'm good, or, oh, I'm fine, thanks, But like, how are we feeling? Wow, I'm feeling gratitude and excitement and joy about being able to share with you here right now, and to hopefully reach people who know, or to share with people out in the world, our brothers and sisters, that we can heal our traumas and we can grow from all of these places and that have been challenging, and that we don't want to force things. So we want to let go with grace and as we are ready, not with expectation and pushing ourselves, but by creating the right sets and settings and guides in our lives, helping to create that and bring that into our life so that we can set up the environment for our healing.
Beautiful. The neuroplasticity, the neuroplasticity. As soon as you said that, I went a big ding ding in my head because I'm a big Dr. Joe Dispenza fan, and I follow a lot of his work, and it just makes sense. He just puts the spiritual together with the mindset, the science behind all the things that are good for you, the science behind affirmations, and it just helps all kind of thinkers, the men and the women and the all kinds of people who come from different ideas. It just makes sense. I do believe that, let's say, affirmations can be a way to change our way of thinking, which is neuroplasticity. So if you keep telling yourself something that on over and over again and a consistent pattern, and you say it with belief and conviction, let's say, I am enough. Just do it for 21 days or do it for 59 days for building that neuron within you. As Joe Dispenza says, he says neurons that fire together, they wire together. It just makes sense because if you have been in a very deep spiritual practice, you do feel that in a visual or a kinesthetic or a energetic way. When you are in that deep meditation, you do feel you have reached a state of awareness where the subconscious is more available to you to look at as an observer rather than just being the emotion, right? So that's the other thing about emotions, where you reminded me of not becoming the emotion when you're observing it. So just observing it, not becoming it, can help us regulate our emotions. What do you think?
Absolutely. Noticing our sensations, noticing what's around us, noticing through our senses, right? Can help to regulate us, because I absolutely agree with you. I believe that we can work in the quantum to create our reality. And one requirement, though, for that is that the nervous system is in a state of relaxation. And so when there's so much traumatization, or if we're still holding on to trauma, it's difficult. It can be very, very difficult, almost impossible for some people to meditate or to focus because there's so much anxiety, right? And so that's why I believe that psychedelics are such a gift, because it's here in the created world. It's been created by the divine. It's existing for our use and the safe use, I think, the way that it works with our nervous system and then creates that neuroplasticity. So I would say that using Joe Dispenza would be an amazing way to do integration work after any kind of psychedelic journey, it's really important to be guided and to be held accountable to your integration, right? Because what we want to do is we want to take these experiences and these insights and understandings and bring them into action, right? So that would be beautiful to practice Joe Dispenza. I'm going to remember that as suggestions, right, for the right person. But yeah, so, MDMA, for example, enhances the ability for people to feel empathy and kindness and social connection. It takes the amygdala down from being in fight or flight, like a constant alarm, which can happen to us, right? Like the idea of getting frozen in a moment or an experience is kind of literally true if we think on the quantum too, right? We're like frozen in time. So we can go back into those places and revisit and feel whatever needed to be felt at that time to become present time, right? That's the whole idea. We want to be in presence. We want the gift, right? The divine gift of presence and being in presence with each other. So these different medicines can really assist us in healing traumas and anxieties and challenges with healing and emotion. And one thing I just want to clarify is that I am a certified somatic sexologist. I am also I've been trained, I'm very trauma informed. I've been trained in trauma in many different kinds of trainings, but I'm not a certified therapist. I just want to put that out there because people use the word therapist very casually at times. And I want to be clear about not misrepresenting myself, but I am very trained in trauma. And I think even more importantly than that, I have been healing and working with my own. So I've been doing my own work. And that I think has been one of my greatest teachers.
Doing your own work, right? And I love how you are so authentic with what you do, that what you are. Some people, they can be called a psychologist, though they're not a psychologist, and they'll be okay with the title. But because you are coming from this heart center and you're coming from this alignment, and you're getting more and more authentic in what you do, that's the way to be in this world. Because I feel more and more people are doing these they're taking up these modalities to give it out to the world, learn and give it out. But if we don't come from an authentic place where we don't oversay what we do and don't underplay what we do, we just say, this is what we do, the right energy and the right people will come to us, right? And this is what you do as well. Could you tell us a few things that you offer in the work that you do, what you're offering these days so people can make use of that? Yes.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I do mentoring, coaching online with individuals and couples. Generally, I would say I work mostly with women. It just seems to be the way that it happens, which is wonderful and beautiful. And I do in-person retreats. So I love guiding one-on-one retreats. So that involves working with medicine if the person chooses. I also do retreats that have been without any medicine, only the medicine of, my medicine and the elements and the person's medicine, right? No psychedelics. So one-on-one retreats that are typically 5 nights, 6 days, where we really just get to dive into working very deeply. And so my favorite modalities are sound and movement integration, because opening up the voice and our authentic expression and our embodiment, really becoming embodied and not doing it, like as we were talking about the misrepresentation. Sometimes I see, and I speak this with love, people performing their embodiment. And I want to just call that out and like notice where maybe we do that too, or we push ourselves in maybe exercise or different kinds of things. Like we push you rather than just allowing ourselves to embody and really truly be embodied, which is like coming back to ourselves and inhabiting ourselves on all levels, right? It's such a beautiful thing. So anyway, that's what I'm passionate about helping people to do, is move through whatever's blocking that way, whatever's blocking that path. And to be able to fully express, to fully feel safe in the body. That has been a big journey in my life, is coming to more and more deeply feel safe to be in a body, right? Through past experiences or whatever, for me, it was that. For a lot of people is that. And I love, so sound and movement integration. I have sitting here right now, I set my little, I need a water. I set myself a candle here. I love to light that for a conversation and for all of that to go out in a good way. And along with that, I put a spoon. So just to share the diversity of how I work, because it's through my own experience and through that of my mentors, some of which have been Indigenous and some are which, say like Betty Martin, working with the wheel of consent. Learning consent and teaching consent is very important to me. Boundaries. And so that comes out in my work, talking about victim mentality. What are we choosing? Claiming our sovereignty, that part of ourselves, again, that is the self with the capital S. So anyway, I don't know if you can see this. So I also teach telekinesis.
That's for the listeners who are listening to this spoon. Could you describe the spoon a little bit? Like, what does it look like?
It's a very thick stainless steel spoon that is bent into a spiral, which, as my partner tells me, Vinaya, he says that it would be very difficult to even be able to do that with tools because it's a very tight spiral. So I'll make a big story brief, because it was such a beautiful experience, and part of what I bring to the world at this time that wants to work through me is I always was interested in telekinesis and telepathy and, these abilities that I believe we all have. So I always wanted to learn it. And during lockdown, I decided I'm going to learn telekinesis now. So for every avenue that I could try to learn something, YouTube or research and articles that people have written. And one day I was like, okay, I'm ready. And I set up a little ceremony for myself, lit a candle, practiced what I had taught to myself, and and focused on bending the spoon, and nothing happened. And then I tried it again, nothing happened. And again, and nothing happened. And I gave it up. And I said, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do it. And so tomorrow came and I didn't do it. And then the next day came and I didn't do it. And this dream I had started getting further and further away. And then sometime, maybe a month later, I'm walking on the beach, and right there in front of my feet, this is crazy, was a spoon. Excuse me.
Oh my God. So you're walking on the beach and you see
There's a spoon laying right in front of me on the beach. So I pick up the spoon. I'm like, all right, thank you for the reminder. I'm going to do this. And so I went home and I set up my whole plan in my altar space, lit a candle, set my intention, and it happened. I did it, right? And I can't even explain the disbelief and just like, what? Right? It really happened. And let me just clarify, there is physical manipulation, but there is no force. And that's a much longer conversation. I teach webinars and things now. It's like hours long. So I won't take too much.
I love this because I've written down telekinesis. Is that how you say it? Telekinesis?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wrote it down because I think, Ripley's Believe It or Not or whatever those shows were. Growing up in Pakistan, we used to get those shows. And I always very interested, like, how does this bending thing work? And obviously the people around me didn't believe it was true, they thought it was scammer tricks. But somewhere within me, I just knew that they're actually doing this. And the fact that you do this, and when I saw your Facebook and I was doing a bit of research on you because you are so amazing, I was like, telekinesis.
I love what you just shared. So
I love that you're sitting across me and you did this. It's like you came out of the TV for me now. Because like, oh, that, she does it and she's my friend and she's across the globe, right? Oh, but she's sitting across me. Wow. So tell me more. What was your biggest learning in that? And what would you like to share more about that?
well, it definitely got me thinking and reflecting on so many things. So then I started practicing with myself. And at one point I was feeling kind of confident, like, wow, I'm getting this thing. I had this whole pile up of spoons. And and then I had a client who was working with me in person on a retreat. And I thought, I'm just going to see if I can teach somebody else how to bend a spoon because there's so many layers to it. And I did, and she did. And there was so much excitement and a really peak moment, right? An experience of a peak moment. And what it took to get there, I've realized is I've actually put together like a PowerPoint. My webinars, I've been teaching it as webinars and also in person in retreats with groups and individuals and privates. So at this point, I've taught hundreds of people to bend a spoon with using the power of their mind. And the reason that I have a PowerPoint at this point is because there's just so much from the practice of telekinesis. There is trusting yourself. This is not necessarily in order, okay? But trusting yourself, letting go, the process of letting go. What is that about? The process of the concept of limiting beliefs. All of the, not allowing ourselves to shine or to embody, right? And it's also about our connection with, for me, it's the earth and with the heavens. It's us acting as conduits, connecting heaven and earth, right? As above, so below. And so there's working, yes, that channel, being a channel. And there's just so many elements that I created a PowerPoint, which I'm really a geek. When I get into a subject like what is authenticity or what is embodiment or sovereignty or what is the process that involved in telepathy, telekinesis. I just geek out and write tons about all these things and explore it. And so it's so much fun to bring it all into what I share in the world. So I work very spontaneously to really meet what is happening in the moment with somebody that I'm working with or a group of people that I'm working with so that to get the point across, right? Like they're all just tools and to get to a place of presence and presence, really. I think it just all comes down to that presence, embodiment, and feeling safe through releasing stuck layers of trauma and repressed stagnant energy and all of that. So whatever it takes to get there, that is for the highest good and for the benefit of all.
I loved how you said telepathy and then you said telekinesis, because I'm pretty sure in your head they're all interconnected. The other day, somebody helped me on the road, and it was this lady who had this Indian accent, and she was telling me how to turn my car, and I was stuck in a situation. She's like, I think in her 80s or something, and she's this old woman, and she's like, opens the door, and she's like, do you need help? I said, yes, I just don't know what to do because that guy's like, F off. He was just saying, get your car out of here. He was just taking my car. And she was like, I'll help you. And she said, like, just keep turning. And suddenly her voice changed into my mother language, which is my mother tongue mother language. What I mean was saying, her language changed into the language that I grew up with. Even though to me, I didn't know she was like, had any of that Indian or Pakistani language. It's the same language pretty much. She started saying, turn karo, ha, yahan se chalo. And I'm like, thank you. It's all. And then she just went away after helping me. All the kids stopped. They were crossing the road, moms and dads. Everybody stopped. Guy just disappeared. Even after she was gone, I could hear her in my ear. And I knew she was like a person that had passed away, a friend's mom, who I really knew very well. And I just knew. So what I'm saying is that you come to a point where you just know You just know this. It's no longer questioning it. What do you think?
I think so. And I think it's kind of like enlightenment. It comes and it goes. We're in this constant state of remembering and forgetting, right? And maybe when we finally remember all the time, we just turn into a supernova. I don't know. But, right? But in this human experience, we're still living in this world of duality.
Yeah.
So there's going to be that forgetting and going back into the shadow and coming out into the light. But I think that it gets the cycles, maybe cycle. Well, I don't know. I was going to say faster and faster until it all just turns inside out, outside in, right?
Yes. Yes, and I knew it because right after that, I was shedding tears, and it was just like I just knew that now this is not just a person. This was sent, and this
Yeah.
was like beautiful. And yeah, so coming back to another question that I have for you, and I don't want to forget this because I often just go into this beautiful space, and I love this flow. I love flow because that's how my
Yeah.
podcast loves. They go into flow. But just coming to this because you mentioned that you've overcome complex PTSD, chronic Lyme disease, and depression. And would you say that now that the practices you do and everything with psychedelics, did that help you overcoming these challenges?
Yeah. Did the psychedelics help me to overcome the
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, in a nutshell, I would say that there is a lot, kind of like we were talking about with, before, with the purging of emotions, particularly, well, yeah, with each different psychedelic, with ayahuasca, it really comes out very somatically. Also with 5-MeO-DMT, there's a catharsis, especially 5-MeO-DMT, a catharsis that can happen. So like catharsis being a culmination in this release of emotions through it's like finishing a cycling, like cycling through an emotion that didn't get cycled through before. That makes sense.
Mm,
Uh, yeah, it's like a trauma response getting to complete its cycle. That's what I want to say. So like the fight, we go into fight or flight, like fight. We get to like, maybe with the body, we're physically expressing that, right? So we can use sound movement integration, or it might come with the medicine. It comes very organically. It might be crying or shaking or fighting, like very dynamic movement to finish a fight response that didn't get to finish. And that's when something becomes a trauma, right? It's not what happens to us. Sometimes people can have very traumatic sounding experiences. One of my favorite stories, I think it's from Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score.
yes.
Such a good book. He has, I think it's him. I'm pretty sure it was his book.
Yep.
About these two boys who were stuck in a tunnel, and the tunnel collapsed. And one boy froze and got very scared. And while the other one was trying to dig his way out. So he was using all the cortisol and adrenaline that was coming into his body. He was using it, right? While the other one froze and the chemicals just flooded his system. And so when they got out of the tunnel, the one boy who tried to get out didn't have PTSD. And the one who froze had PTSD. So they had the same experience.
They had the same experience, but the
But
way
different,
their body, yeah, the
a
way the
different
body held on to the trauma was different.
a different outcome, same experience, different outcomes. So what the psychedelics can do, and what they did for me, is help me to cycle through the trauma response, to have it, to complete the arc, right? Some of that, like another type of catharsis is screaming. Uh, it might come as a scream, which can also help to, open up, like on the energetic levels, the throat chakra, right?
When I read your post about catharsis, I was like, oh my God, yes, we need to scream on the top of our lungs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And with the medicine, it kind of comes, it just comes very spontaneously. It's like we access our body's own inner wisdom. It takes us where we need to go, right? For our own healing, because I don't heal anybody. Nobody really heals anybody. We heal ourselves, but we can have guides who can facilitate, right? That's the idea of facilitation, facilitating healing, right? Creating a safe place. And so if anybody out there decides that they'd like to work with psychedelics with a guide, I invite you, of course, to contact me. And also, I would like to share and suggest that, there are other guides out there, and to interview your guide. It's not about them interviewing you as much as it's you interviewing them. Like, how safe do you feel with this person? Do you have a good feeling with this person? Um, are they trauma informed? There's certain things to really know, because their job is to keep you safe, and to also give you tools to help guide you to stay focused on your intentions.
I love that you brought the aspect of safety back to safety again. And I think safety is also freedom, right? Because you're talking about freedom. Well, just staying on safety right now. I was just speaking to another person the other day, and they said they would like to try psychedelics. And I said, yeah, that's interesting. In a safe space, even I would do it. And they said the same. They said, in a safe space where you feel safe, they would also do it. So what I'm saying, I think more and more people are getting aware, like we are all part of the earth, and the more connected with earth things we do, like people have started doing grounding techniques. They're getting more and more aware of how higher consciousness is where we need to come from rather than our egos. There's a shift happening, right? And I think there's a lot of new ways people are looking at psychedelics. There is a positive story happening, but at the same time, it's again who they trust. Now it's about trusting the person they're with. Do you think that is something that keeps coming in your space too, where people, like, they once they trust you, they know they will be safe with you, is what gets them to take that next step?
I absolutely do, actually. It gets reflected to me a lot that um, many people feel comfortable and safe with me. Yes, actually. And we all have different people that we vibrate with, right? So I may be a very safe place and safe person to work with, and there's also others. So it's important to find your safe person when it comes to working with psychedelics, I would say, and also really to know their history, know their training. um, yeah, there's unfortunately also a lot of abuse within the psychedelic space. So I think that's what I want to also call attention to, that, it's not like all rainbows and unicorns or something. There are people who take advantage of people's vulnerability. So it's really important to know that, and to touch in, get recommendations, trust your own inner sense, and yeah, because it's very important, because you can make so much. It's not the only way to heal. And I personally, it really touched, psychedelics really touched my life. I don't believe I would be alive at this point if they hadn't found me. I say they, like ayahuasca feels like there is a spirit of her. There's a spirit of each of these medicines. Even when they're synthetic, it's a molecule, and we are molecules, right? So was it Einstein who said better living through chemistry? I'm not sure if that was him, but, we are a chemical, an emotional, a spiritual
Yeah.
exist, right? So we can utilize them. And it's not the only way either, and it's not the only way that I work with people. And it's not the only way that somebody can heal. I do feel very biased in the belief that um, the best way to heal is to feel.
Mm.
That
Mm.
coming back to feeling is, and in the beginning, coming back into the body doesn't necessarily feel really very good sometimes.
Yeah. I feel that's the feeling I get from you when you said that healing is feeling. I think that's what you said, right? Healing is to heal is to feel, right? I love that.
Yeah.
I support that for on my Instagram too, because we have forgotten how to feel without anything. Let's say we talk about people that we're attached to. No, I think we're attached to gadgets. We're attached to just having that coffee in the morning to feel something. It's so much embedded that there's so many layers to get into to get to know ourselves. But I think even if we in our minds make a thought that says, today I'm going to think anew, that can have a chemical reaction to each and every cell in our body, because every cell is listening, as they say. And if it's listening, and if for instance, if a cells can listen to you and give you disease, right? Then the cells can listen to you and give you ease as well, right? So I get all these messages from you, but I really want to ask you, as a trauma-informed somatics sexologist and psychedelic facilitator, what are
Mhm.
some of the most significant challenges you face in your work, and how do you navigate through them?
Very good. Okay, the first thing that came is really being patient when people have resistance, right? I can make suggestions um, about, okay, so say we have a session with
Mm,
each other, and I always give what I like to call a prescription, which might be going and say building a mandala with flower petals out in the woods and connecting with yourself and feeling rooted in the earth. It could be something like that, or it could be a touch exercise that I might teach somebody to practice, right? So, um, so after a session, I'll give an integration suggestion like this prescription. And then if the next time I see that person, they don't do any of that, it's very difficult for me to help anybody. I
mm,
can't, I can't do it for you, right? I can't make anybody change. I can shine a light in the direction that I know would most likely be very beneficial, but then we can be met with resistance. So I suppose
mm,
it's just one of the challenges would be like having a pretty strong intuitive hit or certainty of what could really help somebody
mm,
have a better experience, the experience that they're looking for in life, but needing to be met um,
mm,
with, yeah, like with that commitment. I don't
mm,
know. That's the first thing that came. The other thing that just came is both sex and drugs, psychedelics and sex are very taboo subjects.
mm,
So there's a lot of shame and fear around both subjects, right? But I think it's starting to evolve. Like you said, there's a real opening that's happening
mm,
on our planet. And we are moving into a different time of being the Keros, our indigenous people that I have learned very valuable wisdom from, like transmissions from. They live in the area of Cusco in Peru, and
mm,
they talk about that this is the age of meeting ourselves again, that we're coming from a time of the world turned upside down, and we're coming back into this time of meeting ourselves again. And in this time, we see everybody as brothers and sisters. We're all just one humanity. And they also talk about we had to go through this upside down time as it's like our spiritual adolescence. So there's nothing wrong with any of it, right? There is no shame. We're all doing the best that we can. And the more that we can know that with ourselves and with everybody else, it's just so much, right? It's just easier.
it's just being that cork, the analogy of the cork in the water, and being so afloat, and just knowing that the waves have got you, that the sky's got you, that you are a cork, made out of cork, right? You haven't, and you are soft, and the ease in it. We talked about ease. The ease in life is what we don't find because we're looking outside and we don't go within. And I love how your work feels like ease. Your work feels like freedom. Your work, as I've seen earlier, the amazing video. Yeah, guys have to check out that video. I will put a link in there for you guys too. The latest video that she's done. How connected you are to all the elements of earth, the water, the fire, the wind, and how you move through it through sound and movement. Because I've got the same kind of energy when it comes to that. For me, I cannot imagine a healing space without dance or music. It just has to be there in some way, shape, or form. So amazing talking to you. And enough about me. Just go back to me all the time. The light in me sees the light in you. That's what Namaste is as well. The light in me sees the light in you. Amazing conversation. Is there something you would like to say to the audience before we go? Any message that's coming to you?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Saliha. This was such an inspired conversation. What would I like to share? Yeah, just I think tune in with your senses, trust your senses. Like the senses that are feeling our senses, tuning in with our senses helps us come to our senses.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Like
Mm.
really take time to smell the roses, right? Just to gaze at something of beauty or awe each day, it really can uplift our spirit. Something of awe, and that could just be some tiny little insect, right? So it's paying attention and hearing the bird song or the water, even if you're living in the city and you can just I don't know, hearing the water in your shower, have a little fountain, like connecting with the elements, feeling the senses, and yeah, taking care, and loving each other, really being kind, not bypassing forgiveness
Yeah.
to really allow it to come from a genuine place once we've done the work. So knowing this is the time that we're coming back to meeting ourselves again, and we're all doing this work. I'm doing it too, and I can tell you that I know it's not easy. The layers are coming off, but once they're through, it's a relief. It's actually relaxing. It was juggling together all those false realities that was really so taxing. So let's take the jump together and remember we are whole. There's the big S. We are the big self. We are whole. That our divine essence can never be broken. Remember that. There it is. That's what I wanted to say. I had to go through all that verbiage to get to we can never be broken, right? Thank you. Thank you.
Love, light, peace, and blessings, my dear.
Thank you so much.